Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm here with my dear friend and colleague, Geny Moreno. She's the founder of Health Luminary, and she also joins us at Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine. She began in 2019, right?
No, 2019 is when I joined.
It's already been about 4 years now.
Yeah.
She started out with group coaching programs. She also does one-on-ones with our patients. And then she has her wonderful side gig where she loves coaching people through mind-body medicine workshops and doing
Retreats.
Yes, other different retreats, workshops.
This upcoming ones.
Yes.
Crossing my fingers and shouting.
Practices, and she also leads Tai Chi sessions with her patients.
Breathing techniques, breathing classes every week.
Wonderful.
So it's a pleasure to teach our patients those techniques because it is something that they can do today. They don't need anything outside of themselves. It's a resource that they already have. And that puts a lot of power on the patients, right? That puts a lot of control. That puts a lot of faith that they can do something about pain at this moment, you know? Sure, it's good to have other alternatives. It's good to have those other options and alternatives, i.e. if you need, medication for these chronic pain, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We don't judge our patients for electing those things, but we do. For me as a practitioner, I want to offer a non-medicative option.
Right.
That you can bring your body to a state of calmness and ease by learning some other tools, right?
Yes.
Learning some other tools. So the more you have tools in your bucket, the better.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely.
You know?
And we know that stress is at the root of a lot of different chronic and complex conditions. It either exasperates those conditions or it can even be one of the leading contributions. And so that's what we're really here to do is to talk about your own personal journey and using those tools that you learned through the Center of Mind-Body Medicine, where you've got your training, but also in your own personal life story.
Yeah, I learned so much from, I guess, my tragedy. So how I began my journey with learning all of these tools was really prior to 2016. There's always there's a story behind our pain. It's not just the physical, but there's a lot of mental and emotional narrative there. And my narrative at that time, that's very predominant in my life, was my marriage. It was failing. I've endured a lot of, let me just say, toxic stuff in the relationship. There's a lot of mental and emotional, and at the end, pretty much some physical abuse. So, and I saw my body for the first time reacting differently. Now, mind you, I was already a nutrition coach at that time. Okay, I received my functional nutrition coach certification in 2015. I began my study of that in 2014. Prior to that, I was an engineer at NASA, and I was in that field for 14 years of my life. But my love is in helping people. I love health and wellness. So the transition itself, there was a big change. So the stress of transitioning from one career to another is very stressful. I've always known engineering all my life, and then learning how to create a business surrounding nutrition is a different game for me. Okay. But also at the same time, there were many things going on in my home life. It was very volatile and not stable, and it was coming near to its ending. And so majority of my stress is coming from that.
Yeah.
You know?
How did that impact your body at the time? because we know the connection between emotions and stress and how it impacts the body's inflammation.
Yeah, and I saw my body for the first time inflamed. I started to have pressure here in my temples. I would wake up with pressure around my lower neck, and I would have, occasional headaches.
Yeah.
I've never seen myself that way, mind you. I'm not used to that kind of pain, okay? But I was eating well. In fact, I hardly ate that much around that time because my appetite was changing because of the stress. It affects your digestion. But also, I hardly slept, which, of course, years later, I did not know this at the time. Years later, sleep is so important in rejuvenating your body.
Right.
I was only sleeping average each night 2 to 3 hours.
Oh,
I know.
the perfect storm.
I had no idea. That was a storm of stress chemicals in my body, right?
Right.
I was also, I was not big, but I was swollen.
Right.
You can tell, whenever I look back at my earlier pictures, I was swollen around here. My face looked a little bit puffy. These are all signs that my body was struggling. There's some inflammation.
Yeah.
And also I noticed that in the morning, whenever I would get up, this was scary to me. I couldn't just get up out of bed like the way I used to. I had to wake up my joints. I was feeling like some pain in my left joint here, my left elbow. Same thing with my feet and my calves. It's like, I was dragging myself out of bed in the morning. The thing that pushed me to get out was because I had to get a side job that was very physical.
Yeah.
Okay, while I already started seeing clients at that time.
Gotcha.
So I was doing 2 things, basically getting a side job, which I am very lucky that I did that because it forced me to get out of bed, because if it were left up to me, I would have stayed in bed.
Yeah.
Which is a common thing, right? Depression, I was anxious, I get triggered a lot, which is something I discuss with my patients at Texas Center. I just wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, but I was doing my best, the best that I could.
It's understandable when you're in that kind of toxic dynamic. It's just constantly causing a lot of stress on the body and the mind.
Yes, and your nervous system is trying to basically help you by increasing that inflammation. It's trying to protect you as well.
Right.
But I had no tools. The only tools that I knew at that time was eating well and going to the gym. Of course, exercise. I was big on those 2 things. The rest of the other things that I basically talk about now, such as having a good network of friends and tribe, that healthy, nurturing interaction, which I'm very, very blessed to have you in my life and in our team here, and Dr. Ron, these are now my pillars, right? This is very important in our healing. It's not just about getting rid of the pain, but really healing. How do I heal?
Right. So walk me through what that looked like. So you were going through the process of divorce.
Yes.
While also
separation and divorce,
trying to coach people through their nutrition. And then you started the Center for Mind Body Medicine, right? So it's a lot of things.
Yes. And for a moment there, I was actually homeless for a few hours because I had to leave. And I was so blessed that that friend of mine, whom I am still friends with today, gave me a home for a few months until I was able to get back on my 2 feet. And so I had no choice but to get up despite my pain. And you can choose to live your life. You can choose to live a life of purpose despite our pain. That is one of the lessons I learned in 2016, which is, I hate to say, but it was a year of a lot of growth pains for me.
Okay.
I was also isolated from family
I see.
and friends, except for her. She's the person that I called. So walking myself through it, first of all, I had to realize for myself that it's time for me to extract myself out of an environment that was very volatile and causing a lot of stress. That
Gotcha.
helps a lot.
Yes.
Okay, now for those who cannot do that, I get it. But you have to find a way to give yourself some distance to some external stressors.
Yeah.
That's key. Your environment plays a huge role in your stress, and it plays a huge role not just physical stress but also mental and emotional.
Right.
Because pain to me is not just physical, it's mental and emotional and even spiritual. That's another thing I want to talk about. My spiritual life then, I had none, not so much. I didn't have a good spiritual health at that time. And it forced me, my situation forced me to look at that.
Gotcha.
And it's all to me one body. Physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual, and anything in between, it's really just one body. You're addressing all of those things.
Right.
Even if I address the physical, right? But I don't care so much about the rest of the other stuff, like my spiritual. Eventually that's going to corrode.
Yeah.
And then it's going to give another feedback loop back to my body. So
Gotcha.
it's all encompassing.
Which is really what we hear from a lot of our patients.
Yes.
Is they don't really know what began first. Was it the physical that exasperated the mental and emotional? Was it the mental and emotional that caused the physical symptoms? And a lot of the time they're just interconnected. And I think that's what you were experiencing.
Correct. Yeah. And I had no resources to go to doctors or psychiatrists to seek help. I just didn't have that means at that time. So I had to rely on YouTube. YouTube and basically alternative medicine.
Gotcha.
Is what I was calling it at that time. You know, people that I followed at that time who were big into health and wellness and functional medicine and functional nutrition. So those were my form of therapy. But the thing that I started doing is, first of all, I kept up with my diet, but I had to give up going to the gym. It's no longer working because my body is in pain. I have some inflammation going on in my joints and I couldn't see a doctor at that time. And going to the gym, continuing to do what I was doing at the gym at that time is not going to be helpful. I had this intuitive knowing that my body was telling me you need to do something slower and gentle this time. Stop beating yourself up.
Right. And
You
it
know?
makes sense.
It makes sense.
With all the cortisol levels that
With-
you're experiencing
correct.
at the time.
All of the other stressors that I have in my life is really pushing my cortisol even higher.
Yeah.
Even if working out or exercising is good for the body,
Right.
my body at that time required something different to restore
Yeah.
my body.
And that just shows we have so many people, and I can even say from my experience, you can do all the things right physically,
Correct.
but if you're missing out on those spiritual practices, those things to really get your mind in check, your body can start to experience some serious repercussions from that. So around the time whenever the divorce was final, you were out on your own, coaching people with their nutrition, right?
Yes. Nobody knew. None of my clients knew that that was happening with me. I never told them.
Which is hard too, because then you're just suppressing everything.
I had no idea that I was, I guess to me, I thought that was just me, being me, suppressing, not trying to, you know, look at my emotions, my emotional patterns,
Yeah.
you know. Not until I started practicing something different.
So what did that look like?
That was a Tai Chi and Qigong.
Okay.
Because Tai Chi and Qigong forced me to slow things down. Everything is slow.
Yeah.
The breathing is slow, and it was for the first time in my life, my teacher in Tai Chi at that time said to me, you have a tendency to raise your shoulders up. It's close to your ears. You need to relax that down. And I was using my body as an armor, girl, you know,
Yeah.
because I got hurt in my relationship, and internally I had to protect my body. know? So it became,
defense mode.
that was a defense mode. So, I mean, it was a blessing that I decided to give up my gym membership in order to pay for a Tai Chi class every week. I don't regret that, because that was my form of doctoring.
Yeah. So when did you start to feel the benefits of that? And did that help you like release other vices that you were dealing with at the time or trying to rely on for support?
So I began in end of June 2016. I started going to classes, but I was following a YouTube channel that is all about Qigong, which is also great. I learned a lot about Qigong, some movements, the meridians, and that helped me a lot. But I was hoping for some connection with others. I think intuitively on the inside, I was feeling shameful about what was going on with me. You know, divorce, separation, away from family. I was feeling a lot of shame around that, okay? Because, you know, I don't know how to even say to my family that I was going through the divorce. And so I kept it from them, okay? So you can see the container that I was in.
Yeah.
I was in a container, but I'm the one that's keeping myself in that.
Right.
So I had to force myself to go into a class to be with others. And that in itself has value.
Yes.
Right?
Just being around people. But also, like you mentioned, being on the defense mode.
Yeah.
It causes like that tightening of your muscles.
Yes.
And
yes.
so I'm sure.
It tightens the muscles, and we're gonna talk a little bit about fascia later on. Okay? You know, I did not know that at the time, although I kind of brushed over that in my course in Qigong, that there is a benefit to Qigong as it relates to fascia.
Okay.
So whenever you go through something traumatic like what I was going through, your fascia is reacting to the stress, it's reacting because of your perception, and then it tightens those muscles because your fascia system is innervated into your muscles, right? And it's helping those muscles move, contract and flex, right? Contract and then also relaxation and all of that stuff. And so Tai Chi and Qigong, I started to feel better. And also I wanted to say, I had no idea that I was breathing very shallow until I started doing Tai Chi and Qigong.
You became more self-aware.
Yeah, because there's this movement in Tai Chi where it makes you twist the body, and I couldn't inhale all the way through.
No.
I learned so much about myself that year, and I was thinking, but I'm strong. You know, you have this thinking.
All those gym
all
sessions.
those gym sessions. I should be strong. I should be able to handle this breath work. I should be able to breathe all the way through, and I couldn't. And then coming back, the exhalation is even worse.
Very shaky.
Yes. And sometimes I tell this story to my patients, you know, so that they know that I can relate to a lot of what they're going through.
Yeah.
I was so tight in my body, I couldn't even feel my breath going down into my belly.
Wow. It was all just stuck up
It was
here.
just all here. And then I remember when I was practicing my breath work, where it's all soft belly, right? You want to engage the belly to go out, and then you're pushing that body, that oxygen to go past the chest. I had a hard time with that. I actually had some pain here. And I now understand that was my fascia trying to make room for my body to adjust as I continue to breathe deeply.
Wow. So you think that was blocking?
Yes. Yeah, because I was looking at my posture. Yeah, you know, trauma, all of these chronic stress, the mental and emotional, it changes our posture.
I can relate.
Right?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it causes like a hunched overness.
Yes, shoulders rotate forward, and your chest caves in. You know, this puts a lot of pressure on your heart.
Yeah.
And then your diaphragm gets stuck. That needs to move so that it engages your digestive organs to work better. So I learned so much in 2016 upon taking those classes. And I would take it religiously. I try not to miss a week. And it was my form of therapy, even though people in the class, they didn't know what's going on with me. I kept to myself, but I just kept doing the movements.
So this is really how Health Luminary came about.
Yes,
your
it was
own practice of Tai Chi, Qigong,
yeah.
breath work,
Yeah.
those
My
tools
pain.
to really ground yourself.
Yeah.
And release the pain.
Because, you know, we sometimes don't see what we do
Mhm.
until we decided to pay attention on other things. Like how often do you try to notice your thoughts? I never did that in 2016. I just
Right.
go.
And then once you start noticing that that's even a practice of, I guess we could call it taking your thoughts captive or noticing those thought patterns, then it feels almost uncomfortable, right?
Yes,
when you
of
start
course.
noticing those thought patterns.
Because there are some things you're discovering about yourself that is contributing to your pain.
Yeah.
And like I said, pain is a multifactorial thing.
Mhm.
It's not just physical. There's something going on in your mind and in your heart that's bringing you heartache.
Yeah.
You know, there's also some spiritual pain. At least for me, I do identify that there's a lot of that. You know,
Right.
no nature for me at that time, but I decided to incorporate that. So, all in all, I decided to make a big change in my life.
Mm-hmm.
The big changes were already occurring through my separation and eventual divorce, and then leaving a lucrative business in engineering at NASA, right?
Which is a lot.
yeah.
Letting go of a major
Yes.
career that
Yeah.
you built for
A
yourself.
sense of security.
Yeah.
I let go of that, releasing all of that. That's a huge, major change.
Mhm.
And then also having to leave a house, right?
Mhm.
And having to finally move into someone's home, you know, just for a few months until I could get back on my own 2 feet. All of those changes are happening. And at the same time, I'm also recognizing that I have some things that I gotta work on myself.
Right. So how did Qigong specifically, because I know we've talked a lot about, I believe you called it fragmentation of the self, when you're going through a lot of change at the same time and a lot of pain and grief and loss of all different forms in that season, experiencing just a loss of your
Loss of
things.
self,
Yeah.
loss of identity. I lost all of that. I was no longer Mrs. I am now Miss. You know, loss of a family, right? I am having to now give up and face a new reality that I'm no longer gonna be family with my in-laws.
Painful.
So very painful. You're losing so many things. Apart from the fact that, you know, you're losing a relationship, and at that time I was deeply attached. It was a very unhealthy attachment, which I had no idea later on after seeking help that that's unhealthy attachment. So as you can see, I'm discovering a lot in all of these changes. So, you know, pause for a moment.
Sure.
I lost track.
That's
What
okay.
was the question? We'll get back on this.
Yes. How did Qigong help with the fragmentation?
Yeah.
of the self?
Yeah.
So, do you want me to ask the question?
Yes. Yes.
Or where to go?
Mhm.
Cool. So, how did Qigong specifically help you to regroup and help with that feeling of loss of sense of self or the fragmentation of your identity that you had found in these other things?
Yeah. Good question. And that's a very, very profound, deep question, because I've always been an analytical person. I want to measure things because of me being an engineer. That's what we do. Measure, observe, calculate, all of these things.
Very rigid.
Very rigid, very pragmatic. That's That's the environment I came from. And then all of a sudden, I could no longer do that. That's a loss of a new change in my life, right?
A loss of a sense of control.
Yes,
too.
loss of control. That identity of controlling things had to lose that because I could no longer measure what's going on with me.
Yeah. The ducks are no longer in a row.
No, it's what's happening is deeper.
Yeah.
It's deeper. But my body is the one that is printing out of what's going on the inside.
So your body's reacting, and then Qigong became, how did that help you kind of push through?
So by doing Qigong, it's helping me, number one, come back and be present with my body. It's helping me reestablish a connection and relationship with the self, right? To move the body slowly. But with Qigong, it's not just a physical movement to bring you back in the present, it's also your breath.
I see.
So with breathing, that actually is the language of your nervous system. When you breathe slowly, and there's a particular form of breathing in Tai Chi and Qigong, you can't just breathe fast. It cannot be shallow. It has to be deep where you're engaging your belly to really expand and collapse. That technique right there with the breathing as you're doing Qigong, it makes your nervous system calm down. It regulates it back to the parasympathetic. So now you're releasing different forms of hormones.
Which then provides healing for your whole body, right?
And it brings down the inflammation because it's lowering your cortisol and all of those stress chemicals.
Yeah.
Right?
Such a powerful tool.
It is powerful. And another thing too is that as you're practicing Tai Chi and Qigong, you're no longer dissociating.
Which is how a lot of people cope through traumatic events.
You can't, because you know, I am very fortunate that the teachers that I have learned from and studied from tells me to always notice. And so I started noticing the emotions that come up for me. And upon noticing the emotions, because I was always taught as a kid, don't worry about your emotions, that's not important. Walk it off.
Yeah.
That's the family I came from. You know, don't express. So by practicing Qigong, it's helping me reestablish a connection with my emotions.
Yeah.
You see? And if I cry, I cry. And if not, all I'm doing is just noticing that emotion. Thoughts may also come through, but the practice itself is so healing that it brings you back to the present moment.
Right.
Then that's a form of mindfulness.
Which is the opposite of dissociating. Do you want to define a little bit what dissociation is and what that looks like?
Dissociation means that we want to divorce or detach ourselves from the emotional experience. Such as in the case of, like, for example, trauma.
Yeah.
Right?
Where
We don't want to,
people will distract themselves with like watching TV. Nothing
Or-
wrong with like little bits of taking a mental break, but
Sure, exactly. Sometimes we need that.
yeah.
But if you do it often,
to just escape reality, really.
to not really allow yourself to figure out why does this keep coming up,
Yeah.
you know, and having that inner dialogue with what's going on with you, that is so important because that is what's going to help decompress your brain. It helps you decompress and really help you process your emotions so much better. That way we don't go back to square one where you dissociate, you detach yourself from the emotional experience, because I can tell you, I cannot take credit for this, but I'm going to repeat it here. I learned this from someone who's I can't remember his name, but he said, emotions are just like farts.
You gotta let it out.
He said, sometimes that gas may come up and you try to push it down, but at some point you can no longer push it.
Yeah.
Right? You can't suppress it
our
because
pride.
eventually it's gonna hurt so bad and it's just gonna explode. That's what happens with our emotions. I know what an image, right? But it does happen. You know, we all have a sense of humor here, but it's true. I've done that. I'm sure other people have done that. You know, when you're on a date,
You get home.
right? And you're trying to look pretty and nice and graceful. So I'm just saying that's what emotions are, and the more you suppress that, it's gonna come with intensity.
Yep. And that comes out in our responses, right?
Yes.
It's like a pressure cooker, just
Yes.
pushing
Good
down
thing.
those emotions.
Yes. And in fact, I love what you just said. They do come up in your interactions with people.
Oh.
That's why you want to recognize how you react
Yeah.
to a situation, how you show up in relationships, how you show up in any kind of dynamic with other people in interactions.
Yeah.
You know, do you get defensive? How do you react to a trigger?
Right.
Right? Even pain. Pain is a verb. Pain is a verb. You want to notice how your body reacts to something.
Because that reveals what's on the inside, right? And what's probably been suppressed through just dissociation and distracting yourself.
And there are many practices in Qigong where you bring awareness to different parts of your body, where you're tensing it up and then you're teaching it to relax. And that is a form of Qigong meditation where this time you're not really moving, but you're using your breath and then you're connecting to that part of your body. So for example, Jill, I'd like you to raise your hand for me. Okay. Right now, in order for you to establish a connection, a neurological connection to your hand, what do?
Kind of
Move
moving
it,
around.
right? And there's a signal,
Right.
right? With your intention, you're telling the brain, I want to move my hand. There's literally an electrical impulse that travels to make the motors move
Right.
and to make the muscles move. Now, some of us don't even realize what kind of tension we carry in our body until you bring attention to that. Your consciousness is not aware of that. Okay? So there's I do this with our patients sometime in meditation where I'm doing a Qigong meditation. Everybody's laying down and I start at the bottom of the feet. How do you contract those muscles in the bottom of your feet? You inhale, contract those muscles,
I'm doing it now.
right? And then you exhale, relax. And then you do that again. What about the toes? And you see how from someone who's probably on a go mentality, this is going to challenge their patience, right? Because it makes you slow down. You have no choice but to slow down and really pay attention to those little bitty parts of your body that you probably haven't paid attention to. We get people with a lot of neuropathy, right? Our patients, neuropathy, nerve pain. And this is why I love taking them through this kind of meditation, because it brings them attention and love for those body parts. Okay?
And it helps with that circulation.
It helps that circulation, correct.
Yeah.
It is, neuroscience says that when you pay attention to that part of your body, you're otherwise activating that muscle, even if it's hard for you to activate at the moment.
Right.
But in time, the more you practice activating that muscle, you're improving blood flow into that area of your body. So for my patients who experience neuropathy and nerve pain, touch that part of your body, tap it.
Bring it back to life.
Bring it back to life, because tapping and all of these things, when you do this, it actually stimulates the nerves.
Wow, okay.
It stimulates the nerves.
And that's what a lot of our patients who have fibromyalgia are experiencing, a lot of loss of circulation.
Yes.
They have so much tension in their body.
Yes.
They need to like open up the fascia to really get the circulation and lymphatics going.
But maybe there's a reason why that hasn't happened, right? It could be the way the story, the inner narrative in the mind, the belief system. We gotta look at that. I always check in with all of my patients about that.
Right.
95% of the things that we do, how our reality is engaged and how we're creating that reality is because of the way we think, our mindset. right? So we want to challenge our mindset. So you got hurt. Yes, you want to be bedridden probably because you're done with life. We've all experienced that. I've experienced that. And do you know if you have not moved your body, your fascia constricts. You're not improving your blood flow if you're just staying in bed. You know?
Dystonia.
Yeah.
Your muscles are just not
Yeah.
cooperating.
Yeah. You haven't moved it.
Yeah.
And we haven't moved probably because we're depressed. See, there's that emotional component to it.
Yeah.
We feel sad. We feel helpless.
Right.
But that helplessness is learned.
Where do you think that came
Learned
from?
helplessness. It's because maybe we saw this from our family members. I often hear from my own patients in Texas Center, you know, when I get nosy because I'm really just interested in the story, what's going on, you know. And I ask them, you know, what's it like to grow up in your family? You know, what did you see? How did you see your parents, especially, very caregivers, right? You know, how do they respond to stress? What does your mom do? What does your dad do? What did you remember seeing? You know? We learn vicariously from our parents how to react or respond to a stress. And stress is not the issue. I'll be mindful here. We don't want to have just zero stress.
Right. Because then that's
not
too
about
far in the
that.
opposite direction. Just avoiding pain then.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to that. Right? We want to be challenged. What we want is to learn how to better respond to the stressors.
I see. And so Qigong and Tai Chi kind of help you become mindful of those things and
Because-
responses.
That's right. You're able to delay your reaction to the stressor. Okay? You're being mindful by way of breathing. Slow things down because, again, your nervous system is going to react a certain way automatically. And one of those things that you want to pay attention to is the breathing.
Holding your
And
breath.
holding your breath.
Yep.
Or are you breathing shallow, too many breaths in 1 minute?
Yeah.
We really want to regulate those breaths per minute, anywhere between 6 to 10 breaths per minute.
I love that.
And of course it can change, but for the most part, you want to go back to 6 to 10 breaths per minute. Right?
And why is it that breathing can be such a powerful
yeah.
tool when someone's especially experiencing a lot of chronic pain?
Yes, because breathing is what activates your parasympathetic, that's your rest and relaxation response, or rest and digest, right? That's where your body heals.
Yeah.
That part of the nervous system, not the other one, not the SNS. It's the parasympathetic is where our body resets. And the best way to activate that right away, the default, something that you can do now is your breathing.
I love that. And
That's why breathing
it's
is
a free tool.
It's a free tool. Everybody has it. There's reasons why we have the breath work, right? And I tell everyone this is something that you can do 3 to 5 rounds. Can I take credit for this? This is something I actually learned from Dr. Huberman. You know, Mel. Maybe he's gonna see this.
Shout out to Dr. Hoover.
Yeah, Dr. Andy Huberman is a good podcaster and neuroscientist, you know, and 2 cyclic inhalations and long exhale activates that parasympathetic right away. You know, and what that looks like is this, you know, you inhale, it's 2 back-to-back inhalations, and then a long exhale. You want the exhalation longer than your inhalation to really activate that parasympathetic response. So inhale into the belly, and then up to the heart. Exhale long.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Do you notice? Yeah, right? You notice how you're already running out.
Yep.
That is related to how well your muscles are able to, you know, let go of that carbon dioxide, and you wanna fully exhale everything out. Your body does not require the carbon dioxide, right?
Right.
Actually, the more you release the carbon dioxide, the more your blood is going to assimilate the oxygen that's in your blood already and taking it into your cells.
Wonderful. It's gonna help with circulation,
Yeah.
inflammation.
So 3
And
to 5,
energy.
yes, that's another thing. 3 to 5 rounds of that is good, okay? So your oxygen, that breath work also, it's not only activating the parasympathetic response, but it's also helping you with energy production. It's stimulating the mitochondria in the cells, right?
Which mitochondria is found mainly in the brain, right?
So we have 100 billion mitochondria in the brain,
Mhm.
right? A lot of it is in there. And then we have other mitochondria throughout the body, like our muscles, you know,
Mhm.
we require that in there so that they're ready. If you're getting ready to perform and do something, it's gonna require and recruit a lot of your muscles to do something, right? You're gonna need energy. And so in order to synthesize those chemicals for energy, and remember, it's not every time you think, every time you do something, that energy, you're using that ATP, but so is the different processes in your body, biologically speaking, requires ATP. So this is why breathing is crucial.
Yes.
Every day, we're in this modern life where this is also, I believe, contributing to a lot of the chronic pain that we have. We have become stagnant creatures. Our work, it's in front of the computer. We have these technology, these cell phones, these mobile devices that impacts our posture, our cars. And I'm not saying that these are all bad. No, we need them in order to navigate in this physical life that we have, right? However, we do want to be mindful that when we have been sitting for too long, it would be a good idea to stand up at least every hour, you know, get the body to move.
Yes.
Get down. I'm big on getting down on the floor, squatting, touching the floor, and just glide from side to side.
Yeah.
You know, engage your body to do some play. That also helps with managing pain. And so in 2016, that's what I ended up doing. My circumstances didn't change, of course, but what I'm noticing is that I started to change.
I see.
I started to change the way I relate to myself, the way I relate to my pain. It started to change. Every day I started walking. After I do my daytime job at that time, or after I see patient or clients at that time, I would go spend an hour and a half walking. And I can tell you my favorite spot in Houston was in the Allen Parkway, Buffalo Bayou. That's where I would walk.
Yeah.
And it's about that walk right there. It's a circle. It's a big, big, big circle. It's pretty long. It's about 2.5 miles. And there were 4 spots on that walk that I would do Tai Chi and Qigong.
Wonderful.
That's daily, every day. That was my form of connecting with myself. That was my form of therapy. And that was my way of, you know, relating to my pain differently, rather than just, I didn't want to take ibuprofen or any kind of, pain medication at that time. I will admit, yes, I did, but, not all the time I would, especially if I know that I had to meet with a client. I didn't want to experience the headache, I would, okay? However, majority of my self-care has been the walking, the Tai Chi and Qigong, breathing, and meditation. I didn't learn about meditation until I started doing Tai Chi and Qigong because it helped me calm my body down.
I love that. And I'm sure you noticed a difference in your thinking too, because I can't help but think that it's no surprise that a lot of our patients, just people out there who are dealing with fibromyalgia and chronic pain, they have a lot of brain fog. It's almost like it creates this vicious conundrum where they feel like they can't get out of the cycle of feeling stuck and stagnant, and then they're in bed all day, and then their muscles tighten more, and they're losing the oxygen flow to their brain.
So that's why every day make a point to get out of bed and walk and practice my practice.
I love that.
Tai Chi, Qigong. Of course, there are many other pillars. It's just that that's what I could do at that time. Are we learning more today that there's so much more? Absolutely. There's so much more that we can do. I'm just saying from my perspective, from what I went through, eventually my body responded better. And that, I would say, maybe it took maybe 6 to 8 months for me to calibrate my situation out, in my life at that time. Still same circumstance. Remember that, I keep going back. My circumstance did not change. I really could not control outside of me. That control, right, the engineer in me that wants to calculate, weigh things and stuff like that, I had to calm that down, that mind of mine.
Which isn't easy. When you
It's
go
no,
through
it's
stress,
not.
you want to control those
Of course.
circumstances.
Because I want to control the other person, I want to control the outcome of that situation. I learned eventually that I could not control those things. It's not mine to begin with to control, but the way I respond, the way I breathe, the way I carry myself, the way I choose to react to a situation are all under my control. That's what Tai Chi and Qigong and all these mind-body medicine tools benefited me.
I love that.
So, again, it's the slowing things down and you're activating. Really, that's what we're doing. I remember one of my teachers in mind-body medicine in my training, strong woman. I can see her today, made a huge impact, made a big influence in the way I practice mind-body medicine. Is that you're helping people to activate the parasympathetic response. That's the rest and digest.
Which is where you can really heal.
That's the only time your body can heal. So what kind of activities are we talking about when it comes to the parasympathetic? Your sleep is one of them. That's why it's called rest. Digestion.
So speaking of sleep.
Yes, sleep is a very important meditation.
Sleep is huge. And whenever you're sleeping, your cells are actually able to repair. But what have you found whenever it comes to mind-body medicine? What would you say is the biggest tool that can help people get adequate sleep? Or even be able to fall asleep at a decent time?
So, you want to get rid of the tension out of the body first. So some good, active, dynamic meditation is a good way to let go of those tension.
Gotcha.
Tension is stress that still activates the cortisol to be elevated, right? Turns on the computer. Yeah. So when I've done many active dynamic meditation in our clinic, and I tell you, our patients, after doing them, because I start them off with a chaotic breathing, lots of fastness, you're getting rid of that tension really, really fast, and then you do some dancing, okay? You shake the body out. These are all things that you can do today, guys. I still do this even now. These are free tools, because you're trying to improve blood flow.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to improve blood flow. And on top of that, just notice every day your energy is going to be stagnant. When you've been sitting down, if you haven't moved, you're making your energy stagnant there. Those stagnant energy is eventually going to affect you physically.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when it comes to sleep, when we relate it back, right? In order for the body to feel relaxed, maybe we need to get rid of tension first.
Ah, okay.
So it's a good idea to do some movement, some mindful movement prior to sleeping.
That makes sense.
Right? Now the body understands, oh, this is tension, and then this is relaxation. Once again, we've had many patients who have not been able to sleep for a long time. There are many, I believe that is a multifactorial thing. However, from a mind-body perspective, a lot of them are so disconnected to the body. they don't even know where they carry tension,
That makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
And this is why I go back to having them, it's really about awareness.
Mhm.
Be aware of what your body does. Where is your tension? Some patients cannot tell me where their tensions are. You know, yes, some are here in the back. This is pretty common, the shoulder, the neck, the chest. But what if I told you, if you are going to investigate and discover, explore your body some more, what if you've been carrying a lot of tension underneath your feet? That plantar fasciitis, right? That's
Yeah.
tension. What about moving up? You know, sometimes we may have some tightness around our kneecaps, our calves.
Yeah. And so just becoming more and more aware through those movements and then breathing exercises too.
And by the way, when you haven't moved your body for so long, right? You are storing a lot of that stagnant energy in your fascia. And it's actually, I am not surprised that for those who are also have a tendency to suppress their emotions, the fascia is also storing all of those things. So there you go. And without movement for days or even weeks, your fascia may lose that moisture.
Yeah.
You want to engage that because it's a gel-like structure. Those fascia system, I'm not an expert, but I know in Qigong, as it relates to fascia, the movement of Qigong, you're twisting the joints. There's a lot of twisting in Tai Chi and Qigong. There's a lot of, doing squatting and getting down on the floor in Qigong. There's a lot of looking up, turning your head left and right. There's a lot of your right frame going across the central, going to the left frame of your body, and then vice versa. All of this is important for the fascia, because the fascia, if you look at them under a microscope, right, they move in different directions. It looks like a cobweb.
Yeah.
You know? So you want to engage. Yes, it's beautiful. And all of that, those fibers will need some space in between them, right? And we want to keep them moisturized. That's why drinking water is necessary, guys, you know?
Yes.
Right? And so that movement, in order to continue to have those moisture within the fascia fibers, only movement can make that happen.
So what would you say to someone if they're in that place where they feel like they've been stuck in bed for so long and they're so chronically in pain that it feels like every little thing is just miserable?
So start slow. Start small.
Okay.
The pyramid was not done in one day. Again, goes back to your mind.
Yeah.
Notice where your mind is going. If you're already criticizing yourself, I'm not doing this right. I can't even do this right. I can't even do it like the way my practitioner, my doctor is telling me. No, stop that. Catch that, right? Catch that. You're already criticizing yourself and you're already making yourself fail at that moment. Right? Your mind is very important here. You need to see those things first. So start slow, and even if you can only do 5 to 10% of where you're at, take it. So you're in bed, right? You're in bed, you're in so much pain. If you have to shimmy yourself out of bed, we'll take it. And if all you can do, baby steps, and if you're able to slide out of bed, and you're able to grab hold of the edge of your bed and do this. I'm gonna do it here, if you don't mind. Okay? I'm big on demonstrating. And if all you can do is put your hands on the edge of your bed, and this is all that you can do, and then you come up, inhale again, and then you come down, we will take that. That's a win. That's a win. To open up the groin, to open up the buttocks, to get those kneecaps, right? Moisturized again. Get those, your joint areas to start moving. Start slow. So I'm gonna tell you guys what my teacher told me. Make a decision. Start and then commit all the way. I will never forget that.
I love that.
Start, commit all the way. Even if all you can do is just short bouts of them.
It all starts in your mind.
It all starts there. In fact, it's true. It's not your body that gives up, it's your mind first. Your body follows.
Yeah.
So it will be a good idea if you want to start really reducing pain in your body and start engaging your body a different way. Okay? You want to recognize first the kind of thoughts you have. What are you believing? Are you believing that if you say this, and I often hear a lot of my patients say this to me, I can't move because I'm in pain. That's a belief. I know you are.
Yeah.
But you can't stay where you're at. Something has to change. You've got to break that cycle.
You have to kind of do it afraid and do it while you're in a little bit of pain. It's a bit uncomfortable at first, but just
it's a bit uncomfortable, right?
Taking that next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being graceful and mindful of what you're doing, but never quit.
Yeah.
Don't just stay there. Okay? Pick up your right foot, pick up the left foot.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Until you can make your way into doing more things after that.
I love that.
Your greatest challenge is your mind. Because of what you tell yourself every day relating to this pain.
Yeah. So whenever it comes to Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, and breath work, all the tools that you teach our patients and people through Health Luminary, what would you suggest they start with first?
Learn how to breathe better.
Learn how to breathe. Okay.
That's right. Commit to doing some breath work, really engaging. You know, when we breathe, you don't see this, but there are actually components in your body that is moving, right? You want to get the belly to move out when you're inhaling, so you're imagining like there's a balloon here, and then you're engaging that balloon to expand when you inhale, okay? Intercostal muscles of the ribs, they need to move, your lungs, the alveoli, which are the deepest parts of your lungs where the gas exchange happens. We need to stimulate those things.
Yeah.
That's movement.
Right.
Okay? And then you also want the ribs to like expand. You feel it expanding right here.
And then once those things expand, do you often notice that once the body starts to heal, the mind and emotions also follow?
Yeah, because the breathing is what connects the conscious to the unconscious. You know what I mean? Unconscious are, like for example, your liver, it does things for us to maintain our vitality, right? It takes stages 1, 2, and 3 of the detoxification process, but you're not really aware of that. You don't have to be part of that process, so that, you know, do your thing, right? Be human. Just be human and let the liver do its thing.
It's happening without you thinking about it.
Exactly. That's what I mean by unconscious. So your breathing then is really bridging your conscious mind to the unconscious parts of you on the inside.
Right.
You can basically exact influence.
I love that.
So
What an awesome tool.
yes,
And it's free.
and it's free. So your breathing influences many things in your body that are otherwise automatic.
Right.
You can influence that.
And we see that in so many of our patients here who have digestive issues.
All of a sudden,
brain issues.
I was so happy when this patient came to me. I saw her, and then we talked about breathing, and she was just so studious. She did it. That's the thing. She did everything I said.
Sometimes when you're desperate and in pain, you're more likely to take it serious.
She was having a lot of gut symptoms at that time. I didn't see her for a month and a half. But when she came back, she said, I don't know, my symptoms started to disappear.
That's awesome.
You know, and her gut started working again. She's no longer constipated. Not maybe.
All good
I'm not.
things.
Yeah, these are all good things, right? So I'm not saying that it's going to be like that for everybody. I'm just saying I've had many patients who have come back and said they're feeling a lot better.
That's
No.
awesome.
So, but also, I want to mention another thing. Excuse me. When you're breathing, you're also trying to get the diaphragm to move. When you're breathing in, that diaphragm moves down. And when you exhale, the diaphragm moves back to the original position again. And that mechanism of up and down, it massages your digestion.
Which helps a lot of our patients who have really stagnant or slow motility
Yeah.
and serious constipation. That's awesome.
That's right. So, and in time, because give yourself time, okay? You just need time to get the body to calibrate. Exercise patience. It's not going to just all of a sudden be good again. Mine wasn't.
It takes some time.
It takes some time,
Yeah.
But just know that these practices, they're having to lower their inflammation in the body, especially with Tai Chi and Qigong. There's a meta-analysis of these practices in journals, in peer-reviewed journals, and it has shown that it can bring down inflammation, and you can see CRP levels going down, and on top of that, or C-reactive protein, and it's also stimulating the prefrontal cortex.
Amazing.
Right? We want blood flow here. This is our executive decision is right here. This is where we focus more, right here.
Yeah. And a lot of our patients who dealt with a lot of trauma,
This
that's
is
definitely affected.
It's affected. The amygdala is otherwise much more overstimulated.
Yeah.
It's how we get triggers sometimes, and whenever you get a trigger, just by being in an environment, it's sort of like the psychological memory of a trauma. Your amygdala is already sensing that you're not feeling safe, and then it sends a signal to your hypothalamus to engage, and then pituitary to engage that sympathetic response. And then here we are. It impacts the whole body again. Here we go with the slew of stress chemicals, right? The tension. All of a sudden, your body's now prioritizing where oxygen is going to go, right? Holding your breath, shallow breathing, So we're back to that again. So, just remember, your digestion is going to be suppressed during times of stress and trauma.
So we can really see how all of these tools impact, especially the symptoms that people with chronic pain and fibromyalgia experience daily. Digestive issues, brain
we see that all the time.
Emotional stress, constantly being in fight or flight, and then having that adrenal burnout where they're in bed all the time.
Fatigue.
So really, these tools are all free. They just take some practice and consistency, which is really why you started your side gig, Health Luminary.
Yeah, that's why I love these practices, and I'm not saying at all that this is the only thing that you need. Of course not. You need a good, sound diet, nutrition, which is how Health Luminary actually got started first in 2014. It's through functional nutrition. You would also want sleep as much as possible, but sleep is one of your best stress management tools because it's when your body can heal the most, in that 24-hour cycle. You would want also some good support from a medical team. Maybe there are some other things that are affecting the pain. Right? If there is some airway issue, which I know this is the fibro, that's part of the topics here. We're learning a lot about that. It takes a team.
It's important to collaborate.
These are all important.
But it's wonderful tools that can definitely help push the body into a healing state starting now, really.
Because the body is like a village, we need a village in order to heal.
Yes.
We need that
collaborative
care.
And often for a multidisciplinary approach to really get to the root.
So mind-body medicine is not the only component but health luminary and what I do at Texas Center is all mind body medicine. And I love teaching it. It's what I'm passionate about, you know, and it's where I really see a lot of patients transform from having some pain, you know, you can see them coming in, things are changing, less pain. And you also see that their mindset is changing. The way they talk about how they relate to the issue, how they relate to the health crisis, the health condition changes. And so that to me is healing.
And even their posture, the way they carry themselves.
Much more confident, you know, less judgment of the self. Very important.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Fabulous healing tools that are all
Very, very fabulous.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing all this information with us, Geny.
It's a blessing. Thank you for including me in the fibro event.
Absolutely. And where can, if there's any patients or just community members out there who want to find you and learn from workshops?
Yeah, so I have I'm developing some upcoming workshops and retreats for health luminary. I have a website that's in construction and I have some online programs actually that I want to be releasing. Those are done, but I'm going to be releasing that really soon once the website is up and running. And but you can find me on Instagram, Geny Moreno, FBN Coach, and also Health Luminary. Those are my two that I have on Instagram right now.
Great.
And then of course, if you want to work with me, the best way is through Texas Center, because that's where I practice mind body medicine. And you know, it's I think it's probably much more efficient that way and feasible for most people.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Well, if you're interested in learning more of these tools and just learning from Geny, you can check out our website in Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine, and you can sign up for any of her group visit sessions. It's a powerful way to meet some like-minded community members to continue on your healing journey together, and even do one-on-one visits to really work on those thought patterns.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank
Thank
you so
you,
much.
Jill. I appreciate this. Thank you. Thank you.